Welcome to this Living Memory Association podcast, following our Shops and Retail Reminiscence and Heritage project. In the third episode of this series, we hear from Helen Teviotdale and her recollections of working in the fondly remembered Edinburgh Confectioners and Sweetie shop, Casey's. Stay tuned as Helen reveals her own recipe for Scottish tablet, which includes a surprise secret ingredient. So let's away for the messages, stopping at Casey's for some sweet memories.
Well, Mr. Casey done an apprenticeship on sweet making. Once his apprenticeship ended, he was paid off because they didn't have enough work for him to do. So that's when he started making tablet toffee apples from home. And his sisters, Kathy and Helen, they went out into the streets and sold them. And eventually he opened a shop up in Potter Row, 1930. Eventually he opened a shop in Bristol Street and then on to St Mary Street. And that was the start of Casey's Confectioners.
Can you tell me a little bit about what Jimmy Casey was like? What do you remember about him as a person?
As a person, he was a very, very strict businessman, but he lived for his work and exotic holidays. Away from work, he was the most nice person that I've ever known. Completely different from being a boss.
He made a lot of the sweets on the premises. What were the kind of sounds and smells of the sweetie making part of the shop like?
Oh, the smell was, it was absolutely brilliant. You had a lot of different smells coming up the stairs because the factory was downstairs and you always got the smell coming upstairs and people would come in and say, "Oh God, what a lovely smell, what is he making today?" And I would say either surplumes, rhubarb, whatever.
And presumably the smells kind of went out into the outside as well.
It did, yes, through the back door and through the front door.
So you must have had gatherings of people, maybe children, just hanging around, you know, because of the smell of the sweeties.
Yes, there was a lot of children at the back door. Plus, residents used to come down and sit at the back door and watch him making whatever he was making at the time. We used to make, there was clove, cinnamon, ginger, surplumes, rhubarb rock, mixed boilings, aniseed rock, cherry menthol, barley sugar. Yeah, there was quite a lot. The flavours were fantastic.
We're talking about the St Mary Street shop now, aren't we?
Yes.
And he invested quite a bit into that shop. Do you remember a little bit about what he did to make that shop happen?
Personally, I don't. Even Billy never ever spoke about it. Whether he knew anything about it or not, I don't know.
Now, you mentioned Billy there, Bill Teviotdale, who was your husband. Mm-hmm. When did Bill become involved in Jimmy's business?
After school, he used to go up to the shop and work with his uncle at night, up until tea time anyway, and that was every day, went up after school. Once he left school at 15, 16, that was when he went into the business with his uncle, full time.
It seems to me then it was a little bit of an apprenticeship going on when he was working there as a schoolboy.
Yes, sort of integrating him into the business sort of thing.
Did he want to get involved in the business, eventually to take over the business?
He was well prepared going into the shop.
How did they work together as individuals?
They got on like a house on fire, really did. They worked hand in hand together.
And Jimmy continued working there pretty much to the end. Can you describe that?
He used to work Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday till 9 in the early part of the years, and then Billy's uncle started to reduce his hours because he was starting to get a wee bit, his health-wise was starting to go.
So that's when Bill and yourself took over full-time?
More or less, up until he died. Billy was kind of working on his own and Mr. Casey was kind of helping him, sort of thing.
The roles were reversed slightly?
Yes, at the end, yes. And then after his death, it reverted to Billy.
Tell me about your role in the shop. What did you do?
Well, I didn't make anything, but at night when I worked a few hours at night, we used to do a lot of packing boxes to send to our wholesalers and shops. And I'd done that since 1966. And then after a few years, after I got married, I eventually went into the shop and served the customers, which I loved.
Tell me a little bit about them. What were the customers like?
Oh, the customers were really nice, especially the old people coming in, especially for a wee chat, you know, and I enjoyed chatting with them too, you know, if I wasn't too busy. And they loved it, and they kept coming in day after day, and it was magic, it really was.
Were there any particular sweets that were popular with Edinburgh buyers?
Chocolate gingers, chocolate candies, and a luxurious one called ganache. That was made from whipping soft chocolate with cream, whipping it together and letting it hardened, and then they whipped it up again, and they piped it, and then they put it through an enrober to cover it in chocolate. It was absolutely delicious.
What was your own favourite sweet?
I didn't really have a sweet tooth at that time, but I would say the tablet at that time and the ginger.
We're going to talk about the tablet later on, aren't we? You've also mentioned that as well as ordinary folk coming into shop at Casey's, you did have a few special visitors.
Yes, we did. We had Annette Crosby, Tam Cowan, Jules Holland, Robbie Coltrane, and I think there was another one called Sigourney Weaver, I think.
As well as having the St Mary's Street shop, you had another shop at the top of Easter Road. Can you describe that shop? How is it different?
It was different because we just sold from that store, and it opened in 1969. We just had a lot of shelving with all the bottles and a counter with all the tablet and fudges and everything that we made was in that shop.
It had a different name, didn't it?
Well, it was called C's Own Make. It wasn't Casey's. Mr. Casey got that name when he was on holidays in America somewhere. So that's why he made it C's Own Make. It's a C apostrophe S.
And because of its location, it served a particular kind of sweet to an Edinburgh community, didn't it?
Yes, it was Hibs Rock. It was done in green and white, and it had Hibs written through it for all the Hibs fans.
So what was it like on a match day in the shop?
Well, I didn't work there till near the end, but on a Hibs match day, it was manic. With all the people coming in for like macaroon cake, Hibs Rock, and tablet, of course, but mostly Hibs Rock.
Did your husband, Bill, did he change anything?
No, everything was kept the same as when Mr. Casey made them all. He just carried on the same way.
And you talked about wholesalers and selling beyond Edinburgh. Can you tell me a little bit about who you sold the sweets to, where they were sent to, where the orders came in from?
Well, Billy used to, apart from making sweets, Billy used to go out travelling to different parts of Scotland, getting orders and get new customers. That was his job, part of his job anyway.
Like a salesman,
Yes,
almost like a salesman going round,
yes,
trying to get custom.
Yeah, we delivered all over.
Did Jimmy or Billy ever invent a sweet of their own?
Not really, just the Hibs Rock, unless some of the customers came, or our wholesale customers came and asked for lettered rock with their own, like Queensferry through it or whatever they wanted. That's the only other ones that was different.
Can you describe the process of making the rock?
Well, there was different colours, and they put what I call a jigsaw puzzle. They put all the jigsaw puzzles into the middle, and they had a white toffee around the letters, and then the pink toffee on the outside, and they pulled it on a machine, and once they got it to a certain size, they started to roll it. I was involved in that as well, rolling it, but it was blooming hot, rolling it rock.
And did you roll it with your bare hands?
Yeah.
And then it had to cool
down, and then they chopped it up into whatever size was needed.
So was rock a popular thing for you to kind of provide to the wholesalers?
Yes, it was.
So
especially the seaside towns and what have you.
Did other shops around the city take in the sweets as well?
No, Mr. Casey wouldn't do that. He'd rather just do outside from Edinburgh.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about the changes in selling the sweets over the years, how things changed. Did people's buying habits change and how that affected the business?
Yes, people's habits did change, but the main reason was because the wholesalers and shops that we did sell to, when their owners retired, there was no one else taking over their business, so our business was going down, and it was quite sad, really.
But what about the appetite for sweets in Edinburgh, the drop-ins, the walk-ins? Did that ever change?
No. Everything was the same as far as that was concerned. We still had our regular customers. It was fabulous.
I guess being based on St Mary's Street, you're right near the Pleasance, and that's where a lot of the fringe and festival venues are.
Yes. We had a lot of people coming into the shop from the festival, and they were good customers too. We had the same customers coming in all the time, And there was one time that when the pipe bands used to be on in Glasgow, we had one family came in every year, the husband and wife, and it was 2 or 3 kids, and they always came to our shop first before they went to the pipe band games, or whatever you call them.
You mentioned earlier the tablet. And obviously I've had a little bit. So I was wondering if you would share your Scottish tablet recipe with our listeners.
Yes, I will, but it's quite long, actually.
Go on. Just tell us how you make it and what goes into it.
Well, this is a tablet made my way, and it works. There's 900 grams of castor sugar, golden castor sugar, 150 grams of buttermilk, 150 grams of condensed milk, 170 grams of butter chopped up, and for flavour I use Madagascar vanilla bean paste, a tablespoon, or you could use vanilla extract. Put all the ingredients in a large pot, mix well and bring to the boil, stirring all the time. Turn the heat down and simmer for 10 minutes gently. My extra ingredient is white chocolate. Melt 150 grams on a pan of hot water. The chocolate goes on top of a plate on top of the hot water. White chocolate gives it a creamier taste. Have a small container of cold water at hand. When after 10 minutes simmering, drop some of the tablet mix into cold water. After a few seconds, lift out with your fingers and roll it with your fingers. If it stays firm, which I call softball, it's ready to pour. If not, boil for a little longer and test again. When ready to pour, beat in the melted chocolate and pour into a large baking tin lined with baking parchment. Leave to really cool, then score the tablet so that it's easier to break up and completely cold.
And it is delicious because we've had some here at the Living Memory Association. Trade secrets of Scottish tablet. White chocolate, who knew?
Can I say, the white chocolate, Mr. Casey used to put fondant into the tablet, and I couldn't get fondant, and I tried using royal icing, and it didn't work. So it was just an experiment using white chocolate, and that worked.
I have to say, yeah, I've never had tablet that was that kind of soft when you bit into it, but still had this kind of crispness to the top of it. Mm-hmm. Really lovely. How many tons of tablet have you made?
God knows.
Do people ask you for it, though?
Well, I do make it for my family, and I make it for wedding favours for my family. Just in the family, not outsiders, just family.
Well, you do realise, now you've shared that with us, people all over Edinburgh and beyond are going to be making tablet the Teviotdale way, which I think is wonderful.
Yes, there is a few tweaks in it, but it's not exactly the same as Mr. Casey's, but it works.
Thanks so much to Helen for sharing her memories of Casey's and C's Own Make, two iconic sweetie shops that live long in the minds of Edinburgh folk. This Living Memory Association podcast series is generously supported by the Heritage Lottery Fund Scotland, and you can catch up on all of our podcasts on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Libsyn, or from your usual podcast provider. The Living Memory Association's Wee Museum of Memory and Away for the Messages exhibition can be visited at Ocean Terminal Shopping Centre, Leith. Why not come and see us soon? Until next time, cheerio.